Blessings and welcome to the path to freedom, this beautiful path where we get to set ourselves free, where we get to set ourselves free to shine, to soar, to glow, to forever allow for greater and grander expressions of who and what we are, to live in that beautiful field of ever-expanding love and peace and joy and harmony and wholeness and abundance and all of these beautiful qualities. And thus where we get to set ourselves free from all that is not in alignment with the highest possibility for our lives, all that no longer serves the small and the limited, that may have served us in some past moment, the stories, the beliefs, the perceptions, the opinions, the judgments, and all of that we carry with us, that we have been indoctrinated with, that we have told ourselves to believe, taught ourselves to believe, that others have taught us to believe, or whatever the case may be. So there's a whole lot of goodies that happen along this beautiful path. My name is Daniel Roquillo, and as always, I'm deeply grateful and honored that you are choosing to join me, that you are choosing to tune in to this space, to this field where we get to expand our consciousness, where we get to raise our vibration. And as the sacred laws decree, whenever we raise our vibration, the whole universe rises up to meet us there in that new high vibration. Or whenever we expand our consciousness, these two are one and the same. It's just different ways of describing the same coin, the same thing. When we expand our consciousness, we raise our vibration. When we raise our vibration, we expand our consciousness. So it's one and the same. But whenever we do any of these, the whole universe rises up to meet us in that new vibration, in that new consciousness, realigning, rearranging our lives in accordance to that expanded consciousness or that vibration. So the topic for today, and this is along this path, I was gonna say, along this path, one of the things that we get to become aware of, that we get to release and let go of, is our sense of self-worth, our sense of self-love. As we catch and as we say yes to an intention, everything that needs to happen for that intention to come into fruition, everything that needs to be released and let go of will come to the surface, will come into our awareness. And if we are saying yes to freedom, if we are saying yes to peace, if we are saying yes to harmony, if these are included in our intentions and visions, then one of the things that we need to become aware of, and one of the things that we need to release and let go of, is our perception of incompleteness, our perception of being broken, our perception of being flawed. So the topic for today actually is unique, perfect, whole, and complete. And we can add to that that we are unique, perfect, whole, and complete, and that we are unique, perfect, whole, complete expressions, emanations of the One. And what this means is that inherently within us, this uniqueness is, this wholeness, this perfection, this completeness is. In other words, none of us, not one single one of us, is ever broken, is ever flawed, is ever a mistake. Yes, that may be a story that's been told to us from perhaps our very young age. But regardless of the stories that we have been told, regardless of the stories that we are telling ourselves, in every single moment, we are lacking nothing. We're missing nothing. Remember, we are a unique, perfect, whole, complete expression, emanation of the one. This loving presence that is all there is, that never ever makes a meaningless act, that never ever makes a mistake. And so everything, even that which is not to our liking, even that which we might prefer to be different, everything is just perfect the way it is. And as we come into this world, and as we are being told and taught that we are not enough of this, we are not smart enough, we're not good looking enough, we are not healthy enough, we're not wealthy enough, we're too skinny, we're too muscular, we're too joyous, we're too sad, we're too, all these stories that get us to believe that we are an abomination, that we are deviating from the norm, that we are deviating from the perfection and the perfectedness that we should have been. All these stories, we need to release and let these go. We need to come into a deep and profound sense of self-love, realizing, acknowledging that we are God's beloved, and that God is well pleased with us in every single moment, just as God is well pleased with all of nature. And a beautiful way of coming into this understanding, at least that's been my journey to self-love. I've been sitting in different classes and in retreats and meditations, and I've been asked to recall a moment or recall an individual that provided such a space of unconditional love. And unconditional obviously means that no matter what we did, no matter who we are, no matter what we look like, love is here. We are all right. We are okay. Right? And I had a difficult time. It was a challenge for me to bring such an individual into my awareness when I've been asked to. So what I found as a substitute or as a model for this unconditional love was the sun. Now, what does the sun do? It shines and it glows and it shares of its warmth, it shares of its luminosity, and it shares equally. It makes no distinction. It does not discern inequity. It does not judge. It does not condemn, but it shines on the just and unjust alike. It shines on the rich and the poor alike. It shines on the quote unquote good looking and the quote unquote not so good looking alike. It shines on everyone alike because it knows. It knows that our worth, our value has nothing to do with who we are. It has nothing to do with where we are. It has nothing to do with what we're called or what we look like. But in every single moment, we are unique, perfect, whole, complete expression, emanation, revelation of this loving presence, because it is what we are. We are it. It is us. We are one and the same. We're in every single moment in absolute oneness, in absolute unity with this loving presence, never ever separated from it, never ever distant from it, never ever divided from it, never ever diminished from it. And as it cannot ever be against itself, it cannot ever go against itself, it cannot ever compromise itself or contradict itself, as it is always expressing itself perfectly. And as we and it are one, it must mean, and it does mean, that we are a perfect expression of it. It does not mean that we're always able to make the highest choice. It does not mean that we're always able to live up to our own standards or our own expectations of who we should be and what we should be able to do. But regardless of when we do live up to our own expectations or any other's expectation, we're still a unique and perfect, whole, complete expression. We're still God's beloved. We're still this loving presence, beloved, and in whom it is well pleased, now, always, forever. And so as we become aware of the judgments, and as we turn our attention toward our inner self-talk, our inner dialogue, as we become aware of what we're saying to ourselves, what we're thinking about ourselves, and how we are feeling about ourselves, when we become aware of judging ourselves or condemning ourselves or beating ourselves up or berating ourselves or criticizing ourselves, which I know for many of us is a big thing. There are so many of us humans running through life, desperately trying to get that sense of I am enough. And that's the ego's core mantra. I am not enough. It's got two, actually. I am not enough. There is not enough. Ultimately, a sense of separation is undergirding these, is underneath these. But how this sense of separation is articulating itself is through the perception that I am not enough. And so many of us, we just tie ourselves into knots, trying to become a worthy individual, trying to become an individual worthy of love, of compassion, of kindness. And so we run and we run and we run and we strive towards and we manipulate and we coerce to get people to like us, to get people to love us ultimately, so that we get that validation that we feel that we need. Because as we are not loving ourselves, we need someone else to prove to us that we are worthy of love. But this loving presence, there is no original sin. We did not come into this world flawed. We did not come into this world as a mistake. We did not come into this world, and we're not ever moving through the world as a mistake, as an error, or as a broken being. We may have a perception of being broken, yes. We may believe the stories that others have been telling us, that we ourselves are telling us, that we are not good enough, yes. But that doesn't mean that this is true. What is true is that we, in every single moment, in all moments, are a unique, perfect, whole, complete expression, emanation. So the way to go about cultivating this deep and profound sense of self-love is, first of all, to become aware of the stories that we are telling ourselves, to become aware of the judgments that we're holding towards ourselves, to become aware of that inner self-dialogue. What are we saying to ourselves, and what are we saying to others about ourselves? Right? When we are in conversation to others, do we lean into criticizing or making fun of us? That passive-aggressive kind of making fun? Are we calling ourselves stupid? Are we calling ourselves moron? Are we calling ourselves idiots? How are we referring to ourselves? And this is actually moving into the invitation for us to become aware of how we are relating to ourselves, for us to become aware of what it is that we are saying to ourselves, for us to become aware of what it is that we are feeling about ourselves. Not only when we do things, when we quote unquote succeed, when we make it, but when we are not living up to our expectations. When we're not quite reaching the level that we want to reach, the level of excellence or the level of whatever the case may be, success or excellence or whatnot. What then are we saying to ourselves? So the invitation is for us to become aware of our inner self-dialogue, and obviously our outer dialogue relative to ourselves. And the questions that we can ask is, how do I want to feel about myself? How do I want to think about myself? And how do I want to show up? And that, as we turn our attention away from what we are thinking about ourselves, what we are feeling about ourselves, what we are saying to ourselves, and turn our attention toward what we wish to experience. Not what we don't wish to experience, but what we wish to experience. And as we begin to turn our attention toward that, beginning to articulate and describe how we want to feel about ourselves and how we want to think about ourselves and how we want to talk about ourselves, that opens up the opportunity, the possibility for us in the moments when we do become aware of having fallen prey to those egoic structures, the judgments and the opinions. We now have a plan, we now have a description as to what we wish to lean into. So we can lean away from the habitual ways of thinking about ourselves and talking to ourselves and feeling about ourselves, and we can lean into what we wish to. And as repetition is always the key to transformation, as we lean into more and more and more what we wish to think about ourselves and talk to ourselves about. I remember when and this is a long time ago, when I became aware that I had a low self-worth. I had bought into stories saying that I was not good enough. And so I became a people pleaser. I made it a point to be good at everything. When I excelled in everything, people praised me and they gave me compliments and they gave me credit and all of that. And that, to me, that was love. When someone expressed their liking for me or their approval of me, that was love. And so making sure that I got good at everything, that was a way for me to manipulate myself into love. And when I became aware of this, and I remember in high school, I used to be, people used to say that I was so nice. You are such a nice guy. And I absolutely, literally hated that word because I didn't want to be nice. Nice to me, once I had become aware of this, nice to me meant that I was doing a whole lot of things for other individuals that I did not want to do, but I did it to manipulate, to get something from them. So nice to me was, it was not a good adjective or description of what I wanted to be. Anywho, so I became aware of this, and I remember walking down the street one day, and I caught 3 sentences, and I don't quite remember them right now. Something along the lines of, I'm a beautiful being, I'm worthy of love, I am perfect the way I am, something like that. And I also caught, and this is long before I knew anything about affirmations or repetition or anything about how to reprogram the subconscious mind, but I began repeating these sentences over and over and over again. I would stand in front of my bathroom mirror, and I'd made it a point, or I'd set the intention, or I promised myself that I'd say these sentences 10 times every morning, 10 times every night. And I remember in the beginning how I would stand in front of the mirror, and I would say these sentences, and I could not even look in the mirror. Not only could I not look myself in the eyes, I could not even look in the mirror, but I needed to close my eyes. And I remember feeling sick to my stomach because what I knew to be true then was that these were lies. These were clear and utter, complete lies. And so I felt very nauseous repeating these sentences, but I kept on it. I stuck to it. And over a period of time, years probably, I grew more and more comfortable with them. And I was even able to say them not only to myself and look myself in the eyes, but I was able to say them ultimately around other individuals. So they began to become my subjective truth. They began to become the truth that I held for myself. I knew that I was beautiful. I knew that I was perfect. I knew that I was worthy of love, or whatever the sentences were. So it takes repetition, but repetition, a lie told 1,000 times eventually becomes the truth. And that is what we need to do. We need to begin to honor ourselves. We need to begin to acknowledge ourselves. We need to begin to lift ourselves up, to love ourselves up to the very best of our ability. And the way to do that is, as we just talked about, as the invitation invited us to become aware of the self-talk that we're now engaged in, and as the questions invited us to begin to articulate and describe how we wish to speak to ourselves, how we wish to feel about ourselves. So this was it for today about self-love, cultivating a deep and profound sense of self-love. Thank you so much for tuning in, for joining me. If you know of anyone that you feel would benefit from hearing this, I invite you to share this or invite them into this conversation so that they may participate. Until we meet again, I absolutely bless your day, and I bless not only your day, but our day and our way. With much love, knowing that all is well, knowing that something wonderful is happening, knowing that everything is working for the highest good, our highest good. Much love, many blessings. Namaste.